Thank you. I'm here to talk to you about my journey through football. So I started off like most people do, enjoying football, and that's by watching the game. It was the Italia 90 World Cup, showing my age a little bit. I was on a holiday with my friend. We started watching England progress through the tournament. My favourite player was Gary Lineker, so I naturally became a Spurs fan. And when we finished the holiday, my friend decided that that was it. We had to go and join a team. We looked around, found our local team, which just so happened to be Sutton Ladies. And as you can see, there's me and the team there at the back. That was when we joined up with the local men's team, Sutton United, and we actually celebrated our first sponsorship by taking a photo on the main pitch. And that is a black and white newspaper. I'm not that old. So as part of my journey, I wasn't exactly the best player, but I really loved the game and wanted to get involved. So I started volunteering with the club as their press and publicity officer, writing the match reports for the local paper. Really enjoyed that experience, and then the league were looking for volunteers to become the representative for all the women's teams across Surrey, so I put my hand up for that role as well. And it wasn't long before I then got introduced to Surrey County FA, so my first experience with the county was actually as a volunteer. And I actually became the first FA county women's coach, which was a role that the FA had in place before they actually invested in football development staff across the country. While all this was happening, I was doing my degree at Roehampton Institute. I had been doing the playing, I'd been doing the volunteering. As I came out of university, I decided that I wanted to get obviously more involved in sport. Originally, when I started, I wanted to become a teacher. But I decided that I really wanted to work in football. As I came out of university, whilst I had the volunteering experience, I had the degree, I didn't have any practical qualifications, so the only role I could get was an assistant in a leisure centre. That was with Fitness Express, but luckily they were a good company. They worked on professional development. They gave me my coaching qualifications, swimming and lifeguarding qualifications. And within 6 months, I was progressed to duty manager. A couple of years later, I then worked for the London Borough of Merton as a leisure development officer, working on their holiday play schemes and the London Youth Games. A little while later, I found out about the opportunity at the London Football Association. So it was their second role as a football development officer. It was a slight step down in salary, but I could see it was an opportunity to work in football, so I took that opportunity. I worked on the club side of the game. A couple of years later, I moved across to do the schools development, and that gave me a good broad knowledge across the game, which allowed me to secure the role as County Development Manager at Surrey FA. I worked in that role as County Development Manager for about 6 years, looking after the football development team and the funding investment across the county. About 6 years later, the opportunity came up to become CEO. I took the role as an interim to start off with, so 4 months running the show while they decided how they were going to recruit and move forward. Luckily, when that recruitment came up, I got that role. So I was CEO at Surrey FA for 5 years, and I really took the county through a reorganisational change. So when I took over, I moved them from a limited company to become a registered charity. We looked at making the organisation more inclusive, so opening up the committee positions, so making sure it wasn't just people being nominated for positions, it was about actually open application processes and making sure that we got more diversity across the county. And I also worked on the project of taking the organisation from its Leatherhead headquarters through to Meadowbank Football Ground, where they're located now. And it was once we got to Meadowbank, after that sort of long journey, that things started to settle down, and I felt that I'd achieved everything that I set out to achieve when I took the position as CEO at Surrey FA. So at that point, I decided that I wanted to set myself a new challenge. I left Surrey FA in February last year. I took some time out, a little bit of rest and relaxation, and then in August last year, I set up my own business as a sports consultant, basically working with clubs and sports organisations to help them achieve their goals, whether that's increasing in funding, whether it's improving their facilities, or whether it's improving their structures and their governance. In terms of my advice to the students in the room, I would say that volunteering is vital. I strongly believe that I wouldn't have got as far as I did within football and where I am now without the volunteering hours that I've done throughout my career. It's really important, it's good for experience, it's good for those networks and meeting people and understanding what goes on. And it's really important for your mental well-being as well. And I still volunteer today, so my role at Tooting and Mitcham Football Club as the chair is a voluntary role. I'm also a trustee on the London Football Trust, and I've also signed up to volunteer at the Euros 2020 in the summer. Hopefully they'll go ahead. Knockbacks make you stronger, so you'll see people with glittering careers, but you won't see what goes on behind them and that people will have had knockbacks along the way. But it's important to understand that everybody does. Quite early on in my career, when I was volunteering and working in sport, the first ever Women and Girls Development Officer role came up at Surrey, and I was already volunteering for Surrey at the time. And I thought, that's it, it's a shoe-in, it's got to be my job. But of course, I didn't get it. And it knocked my confidence for a while, but it also made me more determined and made me realise how much I really wanted to work in the game. So I pushed on and kept moving. And the final piece of advice is to explore all opportunities. There are so many more opportunities now for women in the game and for men to work in the women's game. So, take the opportunities that are there, whether it's learning from your peers, whether it's the volunteering, or whether it's just coming to events like today and networking with different people. Take the opportunities that are there. So 8 minutes isn't a huge amount of time. So if you want to know more about me, you can go to my website or connect through social media. Thank you.